Meeting committee to order at 9:13 a.m. Brent, could I have roll call? Here.
Present.
Thank you. Okay, so this is going to be quick today, and I am usually Trustee Love would be chairing this committee, but he is unfortunately out today, and you get me instead. And I just have to make a quick announcement on behalf of the nominating committee that we have received 2 letters of interest for the candidates for the office of president and vice president for the coming year. And that those are from, we received those letters from Trustee Paul Kumar, Mayor Kumar, thank you very much. And then we also received a letter of interest from myself, Emily Pichetti. So those are the 2 letters that we received, and then we will vote on those elections at the March 24th meeting coming up. Prior to the vote, each of the trustees will receive those letters so they can review them. And then at the meeting on March 24th, each of the candidates will be able to share why they are interested in the position. So that is my information for you today, but I will take any questions if anyone has them.
Quick question. Do you have any nominations for the office of vice president?
I'm sorry, what did I? Sorry. Yes. So that was for the office of vice president and vice president. So for the office of president, we had Mayor Kumar, and then for the office of vice president, we had Emily Pichetti, and I am so sorry if I got that wrong. Thank you for clarifying. Any other questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Trustee Pichetti, sorry. My mind went blank. I think we have to move to approve the minutes first before we adjourn.
Thank you so much. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from November 11th, 2025?
I would just like to note my presence on the committee at that time for review, but otherwise I would like to move it forward with that edit.
So noted. And do I have a second?
It'd have to be you.
Second.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion passes. Okay, now with those minutes passed, thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much for your patience.
I'd like to call to order the committee of the whole meeting. Brent, roll call, please.
Mayor Kumar?
Here.
Ms. Pichetti?
Here.
Ms. Elder?
Here.
Mayor
Here.
Gallo?
Here.
Mr. Love? Ms. McPherson?
Here.
Mr. Sleesman?
Here.
Mayor Weiss?
Here.
Ms. Wiggum?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Next, we have approval of the February 17th, 2026 minutes. Those are in your packets. If there are no edits or comments on those, I'd ask for a motion and a second for approval.
So moved, McPherson.
Second, Smith Wiggum.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we have a code book update amending section 460.04F, the Capital Improvement Fund. And I think we have Anna Havix from Senior Counsel, and looks like we have Raj as well. Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor Kumar, members of the board, Ms. Birdsong-Terry. My name is Anna Lavix. I'm a senior counsel for contracts, real estate, and administrative law. And we are here to talk about one change that we are bringing forward, requesting an amendment to the code book. As a matter of background, the codified rules and regulations of the GCRTA were codified in 1989 by resolution. They are being reviewed and updated to bring the policies in line with our current operations, and they are subject to review and revision every 3 years. Chapter 460 is the financial policies. We are seeking one change to that today. The red line was sent in your committee packet. We are asking the board to reduce the sales tax revenue that's allocated to the Capital Improvement Fund from 10% to 5%, and that is found in section 460.04F. Staff requests that the Committee of the Whole recommend this revision of Chapter 460 to the Board of Trustees for approval. Are there any questions? I do have Raj here, as noted.
And I know Trustee Sleesman and I were talking before the meeting. We had a chance to talk about this, I think, at our retreat a little bit. Raj, if you could go back for the trustees and talk about the nature of where that 10%, the origin of that, how long it's been in place. And then I think from a financial standpoint, if I put my CPA hat on, would be what does that bring into the capital improvement fund annually? What does that mean going forward? In terms of financial projections.
Sounds wonderful. Mayor Kumar, good morning once again, members of the board. I'd like to first talk about this proposed action. It supports a comprehensive plan to stabilize the general fund through 2028. So this is intended to be temporary. It's not a permanent reduction by any stretch of the imagination. And the staff will expect to return in late 2028 to restore the funding level to the current level of the 10%. In order to protect the capital program and maintain the 20% local match for federal grants, which is what the intent over here is, staff is currently evaluating debt issuance, and we expect to come to the board to seek their approval within the next month or so. Traditionally, this effort will relieve the general fund in tune of roughly $14 million a year. So that's $42 million over the 3-year period for which this proposed change is being discussed. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Part of it. Jeff, you have any questions?
What would the effect be to the capital improvement fund in terms of our ability to use that and leverage it?
So the idea is not to starve the capital improvement fund. As I said, it is a temporary measure to stabilize the general fund over a 3-year period. And we will continue to look at temporary debt issuances to mitigate any possible effect. So we anticipate very little impact on the capital program going forward.
What amount of debt do you anticipate needing on an annual basis for 26, 27, and 28? I guess my question is, I don't like to do things in a vacuum. If we're going to make this change, it might be nice to see what some of those debt numbers look like.
Yep.
Not a what if and seeing it in 2 months. I'm happy to consider it. I think we need to do this. It's a tight financial time.
Right.
But I would just like to see what the bigger picture is so that as trustees, we go into it with a package.
So the staff is currently evaluating the extent of the debt and the timing. We expect to have that done shortly and come back to the board for approval. Initial discussions between the staff members has been something in the $35 million issuance sometime this summer. This is not. We're not intending that we're going to go out with $35 million in 27 and 28 as of right now.
Just clarify. So in 26, what are we intending to?
Roughly $35 million.
Okay, and then 27 and 28 unknown at this point?
Zero at this point.
Does it make any sense, knowing we're considering this, to put those two together so that you can be working on that and come back with final numbers on that when we pass this? Is there any time sensitivity to having to do this now and do that later?
So as I mentioned, Mayor Kumar, the comprehensive plan right now is more focused on the general fund and make sure that that remains sustainable through the end of 2028. So timing is important.
Right, okay. If that were approved at the March 24th meeting, when would that take effect?
April 1.
Okay. All right.
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Just to clarify, and maybe this is for our council, but we say an amount of at least 5%. So that doesn't prohibit the agency for putting 6% or 7% into
That is, Mayor Weiss, you're absolutely correct. I mean, that has always been the intent. So the minimum 10%, there have been times when we have exceeded that amount. And depending on the stability of the general fund and stuff like that, we will have the capacity of increasing it. But the minimum is where we're coming from.
So if we were to elect to go back to 10%, we don't need to change any of this language. We just, the board and the authority has the authority.
So let Anna talk about, my understanding is that we do not have the ability to have sunset provisions within the code book. But since we routinely come back and make changes to the code book, the staff will expect that within the next 2 years, but no later than late 2028, we'll be back to restore it to the current level.
Okay.
And actually, that was one more of my questions. Why not put a sunset clause in that? I know we do that with city ordinances. Why is not for a code book?
There is no other provision that has a sunset, so we do administratively go back and look at each of the policies. The code book actually sits on my desk in a binder, but we are always looking at the provisions as to whether they need to be updated. But it would be highly unusual to restrict ourselves and put a sunset. I acknowledge that that is more common in city ordinances.
But we're not prohibited.
I would say it's not prohibited. I'm not aware of any provision in the code book that would restrict it. Okay. To Mayor Weiss's comment, I think the intention of the board and that policy is to set a floor of 10%. So would it absolutely be necessary to come back to the board in 3 years? No. But if the board wants to establish a floor, then that floor would have to be raised to 10% by resolution.
But it gives us the flexibility, and I don't mean to pound on this, but every budget we approve for 27, for instance, and 28, theoretically we could make a change if we came into additional funds that we chose to put back into the capital fund. We could still do that on a ad hoc basis, if you will.
That would be another option, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I think what you may be hearing somewhat a discomfort for lowering that floor for the capital fund, but I think it does also provide us flexibility, and so I think at this point, putting things in place that give us the maximum amount of flexibility financially is critical. So I'm personally supportive of the change, but I like the flexibility so that we can go back whenever we choose.
Appreciate your comment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Elder.
Hi, Trustee Elder. Just one question. I know you had mentioned that this is anticipated to be a temporary measure and that we don't anticipate this going forth after 2026, essentially, right?
The recommendation is for a 3-year period so that we stabilize the general fund through the end of 2028.
3-year period. Okay. And so, so we've talked about, this being a safety measure and us really making sure that we're not putting ourselves in a precarious situation, I guess. Are there any risks to lowering it for this amount of time?
I don't believe so. I think in some other discussions, we have continued to provide some information on the amount of debt that historically we have carried. We are at historically low levels, so I don't believe that there is a tremendous risk. We do have the capacity to add risk. There's plenty of room in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions from other trustees?
Trustee Smith-Wigglum, you answered my question. I just wanted you to double down on it. So are you also saying that we have capacity to issue debt? Because it sounds like that's the plan and the strategy that you plan on coming back to the board with.
We will issue debt judiciously, making sure that the needs of the capital program are met. Just as reference, and I'm sharing some numbers from the top of my head, about 10 years ago, we used to be in the 150 to 160 million in outstanding debt. That number is close to 15 million right now, so there is plenty of room.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
I'd like to double down on Mayor Kumar's request to see some of the numbers, because I'm looking at the budget and budget plan as it is now and trying to do some mental math, but actually being able to see some firm numbers would be great in terms of the transfers from the general fund to the capital improvement fund as they are now versus what they're planning to be, and then how that's going to be kind of re-upped from debt, and then what the issuance of debt would do to the projected numbers for the bond retirement fund.
I think what you, if I'm listening and understanding correctly, is I'm sure when you're going to come back with some of those debt numbers, you might have sort of a pro forma financial statement, a projection that sort of shows that integrating all these things into a financial format.
Including the, I know we don't do budgets out this far, but including kind of projected impact for the duration of the bond term.
Right. So I think, let me state a different way. The idea is not to necessarily starve the capital program, because that would not be in the authority's best interests either.
Right.
We're trying to solve a general fund related issue on a temporary basis. We do have the capacity to issue additional debt if necessary. So 35 million, once again, is the number that we're currently looking at. If it needs to be a little higher, we will evaluate and come back to the board.
If I may, I presume also you make assumptions on the debt. Obviously, you're not going out today, so the terms of that debt could vary.
So we are currently in discussions with our bond counsel as well as the financial advisor, and we'll come back with the expected timing, but I expect that to be within the next month or two.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. When you come back, if you could have some of those projections in a pro forma, I think that would answer a lot of questions and tie it together for us rather than
Sounds wonderful.
one
We'll do.
question at a time.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I would just offer, if individual board members are interested in the preservation of certain projects, if there's a particular item that needs to be discussed, to send that over to Raj, copy myself on that so that we can provide all that information in preparation for the 24th to the best of our ability. I would make sure that we also pay attention to the timing, to make sure that we are all on the same page, to make sure that we're making the best decision for the current. I understand the questions, and I do think we can provide more information. I also want to make sure that we don't get caught up too much in the nuances of project by project on the capital side, to make sure that we have room to be able to adjust within the next few years. But I think it sounds like we need to bring a little bit more information over the next couple of weeks to the board. But if you do have those individual questions, please send them over to Raj.
Yeah, and I don't think it was the discussion of individual projects, but knowing that we have a match to go after projects, and we've done a good job to eat into our capital backlog. It's just trying to look at that holistically. Obviously, management's going to pick those projects. We're, I think, by and large, going to be supportive of that. We just want to know what impact that would have, and would we now start working the other direction on capital projects and not funding what we might have done over the last few years. So I think just trying to see that big picture in a snapshot so you can see all the moving parts, it was the goal, not a particular project.
So I totally understand the request for additional information at the appropriate time, and we'll have it available. Thank you.
Great. If there are no other questions, do I have a motion and a second to move that to the full board?
So moved. Mayor Weiss.
Seconded, Smith Wiggum.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. We also have one other item on the Committee of the Whole agenda. We have a new rail car update. We have Brian Moore and Casey Blaze, and maybe others. Oh, nope.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Excuse me. Good morning, Mayor Kumar, members of the board, Ms. Birdsong Terry. My name is Brian Moore, and I'm the manager of the Railcar Replacement Program. So as Mayor said, I've got a few other people here to give an update on where we are with the program. Just as a reminder, it was June 26th of 2023 when we issued the contract. It's a 7-year term, and the base contract was for 24 light rail vehicles, and right now we're up to a total of 54 that are under contract. So looking at the budget that was approved May 20th, 2025, vehicle acquisition, we have $380,702,126 allocated for just the vehicles. Then we have design, inspection, and testing at $6,453,947. And then we have existing infrastructure upgrades because there are certain things that we have to fix and change because of the new rail cars. That's roughly $33.5 million. We have project administration, and that's just the team that it takes to push things through at $300,000. We've got force account of $12,712,115, and then that leaves us with an unallocated contingency that's available for anything that may pop up of $16,307,114 for a grand total of $450 million.
Thank you. And just, we have some new trustees. Can you go back to that slide? Can you describe the force account?
Force account is going to be staff time. It also takes into account any travel, and I may have to phone a friend on what else is in there. But so it's that's something that goes through with the grant funding that they allow us to
charge time to
and take
part of that
those
grant.
things into considerations.
Yep.
So any work we have to do, the project team, or if our maintenance of way team have to do work, then that will allow us to charge back and get reimbursed.
Just for the trustees and the public, when do we expect the first rail cars to arrive?
First rail car should arrive June of this year.
Thank you. Questions? Anyone? Go ahead.
Good morning, Mayor Kumar, officers of the board. My name is Carolyn Young. I'm the Director of Grants Management and Treasury, and I'm here to present the funding stack for the railcar program. The slide that you see before you is a presentation of our funding sources that are currently identified for the railcar program, totaling $450 million. Year to date, we have been able to secure at least $420 million of those funds. $358 million have been awarded. $62 million have been committed, leaving an uncommitted balance of $29.5 million. We still have pending allocations in our rolling stock at $15 million and $14.5 million in our ODOT competitive grants opportunity that we will seek out over the next couple of years. So right now, we still have an uncommitment of $29.5 million for the railcar program.
That is for all 60 vehicles?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I spoke briefly earlier about things that we had to change because of the new rail cars. They're different sizes. One of the items that we have on our infrastructure modification was the Port of Cleveland connector track. That is completed, so that allows us to accept delivery of the new trains and or any other materials through the Port of Cleveland. Another thing we had to modify was the Brook Park shop. We had to get that in a condition that was able for the Siemens team to come in and commission the new trains. So that has been completed, as well as the Brook Park yard. We upgraded some of the tracks and some of the overhead structure out there, and that project's currently in the closeout phase. The other key modification or location that we have to modify is going to be the Central Rail Maintenance Facility. The new trains have a lot of the equipment on the roof, which is in contrast to our existing fleet, which is underneath. So we have to put in mezzanines in order to work on the top of the vehicles. And there's some other equipment modifications that we have to do in that facility. That notice to proceed has been issued, so we're moving forward with that contract. And then we have the red line platform modifications, where again, the cars are narrower, so we have to extend the platforms. The notice to proceed has been issued for that contract also. And right now, the light rail platforms are at about 30% design. Looking at the milestone schedule for the program, again, the base contract was awarded. That's been completed. Option 1 was awarded for an additional 6 vehicles, and that was at, those vehicles do not get escalated. So that was awarded in November of 23. That's been done. Then we issued another option order for 18 additional vehicles, and that brought our total up to 48. And that was awarded again in November of 2024. And our current option number 3, we awarded an additional 6 vehicles. So now our total comes up to 54. And that was awarded in September of 2025. Continuing on with some other key milestones. Delivery of the first vehicle, again, that's, we're looking at June 29th of this year. Delivery of the second vehicle, we're looking at that to be around July of 2026. So, and then our third vehicle would be July 29th of 2026. So we should get those other 2 vehicles and have 3 on property by July. With that, I'm going to turn it over.
I don't need that.
Okay, go.
I'm good. No, cool. Thanks. Good morning, members, Mayor Kumar, members of the board. My name is Jose Feliciano Jr. I'm an Intergovernmental Relations Officer here at the Authority. We all share in the excitement surrounding the arrival of the new rail cars, as it has been nearly 50 years since our system has received new vehicles of this scale and significance. Administration External Affairs is currently under, I can't read my own writing, coordinating a commemorative event to mark the arrival of the first rail cars. As the chart reflects, we anticipate this will be between June 29th and July 29th. The event will recognize the important milestone and the partners who helped make this investment possible. We're in the early stages of planning, and we will keep the board apprised as details are finalized. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. So then, looking at other key milestones, we're going to put Red Line in service August 15th of 2027, and then Blue, Green, and Waterfront will be operative August of 2028. So everything's coming up very quickly.
Back the slide for a second. So 8/15/27 is when those cars would first go in service?
For the Red Line, yes.
Thank you so much.
And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Casey Blaze to talk about where we are with the manufacturing process.
All right, good morning, Mayor Kumar, members of the board, Ms. Birdsong Terry. My name is Casey Blaze. I'm the Deputy Project Manager for the Railcar Replacement Program. So some manufacturing updates for where we stand in current production. So car 401, which is the first vehicle, is currently in static testing, which means that it's under power for the first time. All the software is being offloaded, and all the testing sequences are beginning to verify operation. Car 402 is in DIPMACO testing. So DIPMACO testing is where they test the wire integrity. So they have a software program that plugs in. So each car is plugged into a test box. Every connector, every wire is tested to verify that it's functional, that it's receiving and sending commands, and that the integrity is there. There's no nicks or chips or anything that could cause some sort of errant defect while it's in service. Car 3A and 3B are car shells that are in various repair phases. So we have a person on site who inspects the vehicles, and if we find something, they go through and fix it. We'll flag it for a QA review, and that will be repaired. Car 4A and 4B, windshields are installed, and it's moving into the final assembly area where it becomes a married pair, so it becomes two ends, an A and a B car get merged together, and it becomes 403. So that's where we're at on car 4. Car 5, floor lining is in, so they're installing the flooring. 6, primer install. 6B and 7A are also receiving flooring. And then various other car shells are awaiting primer, so they're outside in storage right now. So we have 11 total car shells completed in various states of manufacturing process. And then they started car shell 12A, so they started welding that. Some pictures here. So on the leftmost side, car number 401 in static testing. It doesn't look like much is going on there, but it's all plugged in and being tested now. In the center, you can see car 401 with the interior information sign being tested. You can see the RTA logo in the upper left-hand corner. So that's going through its test sequences now. And then car 401, an overall picture of what car shell or the car looks like in the static testing area. 402 is in Ditmaco testing, which again is the integrity for the wiring. Ditmaco stands in for Drive-In Theater Movie Corporation, so it's a manufacturer. And so 402 on the left-hand picture, that's what it looks like overall in Ditmaco testing. The center picture shows the different wiring harnesses that are throughout the car routing back into the testing fixtures. And 402, also just an overall view from the articulated section of the train looking towards an operator's cab. Car shell 4A with the windshield and cab slider installed. The cab slider allows for the operator to open a window and interact with wayside features or interact with customers. The center picture you can see is 4B with a windshield and cab slider, and then 4A and 4B about to be merged or married together. 7B in the car shell storage area, where you see the rust, that gets sandblasted off, so don't be alarmed by the rust look on there. That all gets removed prior to primer. So it's sitting outside in Sacramento right now. 403B, windshield and cab slider installation again, and then 6B on the right-hand most side, you can see the floor lining being installed, and they put the tape down to hold the seams together while the glue is drying. And then those bars are applying pressure downward. So just a couple improvements that we thought about while we were putting together the technical specifications for the vehicle when we went out for bid. Some lessons learned from cold weather experiences we've had here in Cleveland. So we spec the car based on worst case scenario that we have on record in Cleveland. So we have negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit to 104 degrees Fahrenheit for the operating conditions. We also spec'd out for a heated pantograph, which allows the pantograph to become heated. Won't let snow and ice accumulate onto the pantograph, which would cause it to sag and lose contact with the electrical wires. It also transfers some of that heat into the overhead so that if it's parked standing still, it still has connection. It maintains that connection with the overhead. Heated couplers, which allow us to couple and uncouple much easier. Heated windshield, cab slider, headlights, and the gap filler. The gap filler is the device that'll come out from the front doors that have steps to fill the gap so that where the doors in the platform, where we need that space, the gap filler comes out to touch the platform, so it's a seamless transition. We have ice cutter pantograph on each car, and we have a snow plow on each end of the cars. We have dedicated passenger and operator HVAC systems, so the operator can control their own temperature settings that they prefer versus having to be what the passengers feel, because the doors open and close on the car, so it's much more cool or hot depending on what phase the HVAC system's in. And then probably one of the biggest improvements would be the hydraulic brakes. So right now we have pneumatic brakes which collect air and moisture, and then that freezes when it gets really cold. And that's where we see a lot of the problems with our braking systems in the cold weather. So hydraulic brakes do not have those issues. And the hydraulic fluid that was chosen is for this operating conditions, like I said, the negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit to 104. And then we're moving forward. It's an exciting time here. We're expecting cars to come in soon. So we're excited to announce that we have a new team member coming on board with us, Jack Barnett, who is the transportation manager currently at the rail district. He'll be transitioning over to the deputy project manager for commissioning. His responsibilities will be to manage that commissioning process out at Brook Park to allow for transition between the different modes. So we have to go out into service, we have to go into the line. Jack's ability to interact with all the different user groups that will be touching this train, so service quality to get track time, outages, coordinating operators, all the different tasks that are involved in getting that car tested. So Jack will be very busy here for the next 3 to 4 years. Then we have on-site static and dynamic testing, which is where after the car is shipped to us, we'll bring it inside the Brook Park facility. We'll power it on for the first time on Cleveland property to verify that it is functional and doing what we had expected to do. In addition to the qualification testing, which is where we go for 5 weeks in a mile zone and we run every possible scenario into that car and verify that it's functional. And then the final step before conditional acceptance is burn-in, where the vehicle will run 1,000 miles defect-free. And once it does that, then it achieves conditional acceptance and we can then move into revenue service. Okay, and with that, I'll ask for any questions.
Just a request, can we make sure Casey and Brian, for the next update, when we have a presentation, add Jack to the presentation team so that folks can meet him?
Sure.
I have one quick question. What happens at 104 or above 104?
So when we reach an ambient temperature above 104, so it would have to be the ambient temperature, not just the box hits 104 degrees, it's rated for much higher. You would have degraded functionality of the vehicle. It would still operate, it just wouldn't operate at maximum allowable speed. So we would still be able to operate the vehicles, it just wouldn't be as maximum as possible.
I think we'd all be hot at 104.
I was going to say global warming. I would support Casey's response. It happens with electric vehicles. It happens with highly electrified vehicles where you have reduced speeds. Your air conditioning goes down quicker. You basically have a lowered degradation of service so that you wouldn't operate at the same speeds as you normally would, and you'd have a slow zone kind of issue with the rail.
Correct.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the question of cars. Can you just clarify for me how many cars we can purchase at a time? Because I feel like I've heard different numbers, and I just want a clarification on that.
Good morning, Chair Pichetti, Mayor Kumar, members of the board. I'm Flonse Kaver, Chief Operating Officer here at the Greater Cleveland RTA. And so we can purchase, going forward, we can purchase a single car at a time. And so what we've purchased, our contract is for 60 cars. We have 54 cars on order. At this time, our recommendation is not to purchase the additional 6 cars. But we could purchase 1 car, and what it does is it would extend out the time with which we need to purchase the next car.
Can you clarify what we've heard in the past in terms of purchasing groups of, I don't know if it was 4 or 6, 2, just help us out, reconcile the different interpretations.
Let me give you
Thanks.
kind of the times that so we first purchased 24 cars. After that, we had an opportunity, and this is option number 1, 6 vehicles. After that, we had an opportunity where we could buy up to 6 cars at a firm fixed price, which was advantageous for us. And so with that first option that you see, we were able to purchase all 6 cars to reduce the cost. Option 2 and option 3 are subject to escalation. And so we wanted to maximize the number of cars that would have a firm fixed price. After that, we purchased our cars in divisible by 6, and so we had 18 and 6. What those purchases did was they extended the time. So our contract has, after you've made a purchase, you must purchase a car in a certain amount of months or weeks per car. And so let's just say for the 6 cars, we had virtually 6, 7, 8, 9, about 5 or 6 months where we had to buy the next car, so that their production line would not disrupt. And so we have tried to give ourselves more time in between the purchases so that we could have more time to figure out how many cars we would be able to buy with our money. But we can purchase one car, and if we do so, we would have to come back to you in about a month to purchase the next car. And so what we've tried to do is make those where there's a bigger gap so that we could get more information about our revenue and funding before we have to make the next decision. So think of it as when you purchase to keep the line from resetting. And if the line resets, there's a cost to it.
And what is the next date at which the escalation for the next car kicks in?
I think let me ask the question differently to make sure I'm answering the right question. By what time would we have needed to make the next purchase? Is that the question?
If we were to buy additional cars, when does the next escalation kick in?
The escalation kicks in for any car that we purchase now. However, if we...
I guess the next escalation.
If we were going to purchase one car, when would we have to do that by?
That was, yeah. And we would have to do that by now. So March 6th. It would have to be by March 6th.
Doc, let me ask a quick question, and feel free, Raj Mike, to jump in. But we typically, correct me if I'm wrong, have ordered them, as you mentioned, per the schedule, but they've typically been looked at in sets of couples. Is that accurate, or no? I know that we can order one at a time, but is the idea to order as pairs?
We have typically looked at using even numbers. Yes.
So I just wanted to mention that. I think that's the what you're alluding to and would be accurate, is that we typically have ordered them in pairs. And so when we talk about numbers of purchase, you'll hear those sort of even pair numbers come to mind to be able to also effectuate how the service can be operated. Let me also ask, just for clarification, because we are recommending to hold at 54, can you just state, and maybe this is a financial question, the cost of the additional 6 to be able to get us to the originally intended 60, and then also the operational need of 54 versus 60 and what that may or may not get us?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Ms. Terry, for the question. So the first question is, what is the cost of the 6 cars? Each car is estimated to be approximately $6 million. So we use that as our relative number. Those 6 cars would cost us another $36 million to the program from our current cost. And then can we operate the system with 54? The answer is yes. We can operate the system with 54 cars.
And when you quote the $6 million per car, approximately, if we were going to get 6 more, is that assuming we would buy those by the March 6th?
Yes.
So they're, like, if we bought them today, they're $6 million each.
Yes. If we bought them a month from now, they would be $6 million each plus a $3.7 million restart fee for the line in the manufacturing line. So think about a car. There's a restart fee to get our cars into all of the manufacturing fee if the line doesn't stay continuous. And so our 54 cars after March, then the company will start to slot another purchaser into the line, which means they may have to change the manufacturing tools to fit some other car.
Thank you.
Dr. Caver?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I was wondering, we're having conversations about budget and revenue, but are there any other externalities that are weighing in this decision to go from 60 cars to 54 cars?
Yes, thank you for the question. And so our team has modeled various scenarios related to the $450 million budget. And there are a few things that have lingered for some time, almost for a year now, that have some cost pressure. One of those items is tariff costs. In our worst case scenario, tariff cost planning, tariffs, if the tariffs were to stay at our valuation, those tariffs would cost us approximately $12 million to that vehicle acquisition cost. For 2 cars, yeah, the 2 cars. We also have, if you can see in that unallocated contingency, as this project has moved throughout, some of that unallocated contingency will be taken up. And so we would have less opportunity to deal with any risk. One of the project risks that we must protect against is when the car gets here, if something doesn't work, right? And if something doesn't work, you'll need to have funds to be able to try to fix those items. When we've done some modeling, and certainly some things have changed, but our worst of worst case scenario would be that if all of the bad things happen, this project could have ballooned to $475 million, sorry, about a $25 million more. While we recognize that some of those risks have dissipated, we have not taken all the risk. And I want to just explain to this board and to this community, the only thing that is variable in this project is the number of cars. Every other component of the project would have to happen if I had 1 car, 50 cars, or 60 cars, because they're infrastructure related and program related. And so as you look at just prudent management, there's only one item that can change to reduce costs in this project. And the only one that is the way we could do it is with the number of cars. It's the only variable cost to the project.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for the update. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That, I think, ends our business. In Committee of the Whole, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor Weiss.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Committee is adjourned.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee. It's at 10:01. We're moving along here. So could I have a roll call, please, Brent?
Ms. Pichetti?
Here.
Mayor Gallo?
Here.
Ms. McPherson?
Here.
Mr. Sleesman? Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We have a few things on the agenda today. The first is the approval of the minutes from the February 17th meeting. And then we'll have a presentation from the procurement office and also a presentation about a contract increase. Let's start with the approval of minutes from the February 17th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So move, Sleesman.
Second, McPherson.
Okay, we do have those minutes in front of us. I know I had a few edits to those. Is there any other discussion or comments from the committee members? Okay, I just wanted to share, I'll offer them as a set, and then if there's specific ones we need to discuss, we can take them apart. I think there's just a few lines that need some clarification around a statement from Mark Ash about clarifying that when he was comparing us to the 80% of U.S. transit agencies, it doesn't say what he was comparing us to, so I wanted clarification on that. I think he just meant that we tend to look at these numbers and traction and measure our performance much more frequently than other transit agencies. I would like that clarified in the minutes. The second is, let's see, I think further down, Trustee Sleesman had, I think, a good question and a discussion around which metrics we lift up to measure both performance and perception of performance. And that justification isn't in here, and I think I would love that to be captured in the minutes. I think it's a really important conversation to have that we had. And then the third thing is a very minor point, also in that same section about last paragraph, the performance question. I think it's just grammatical, on-time performance or perception of on-time performance. Anyway, so those are my suggested edits. Any discussion or questions around those?
Absolutely. We can make those adjustments. Brent, if you have those noted down, and we'll go through those. Thank you.
Okay. Can I have a vote to approve those as amended? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes as amended. So those are for the approval of minutes for the February 17th meeting. Yeah, there was already a first and a second. Okay, so moving on. I would like to welcome Miles Varga and Glenville Manning to the floor regarding an RFP procurement. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair Pachetti, members of the committee, members of the board. My name is Miles Varga. I'm the supervisor of traction power in our rail power and way district. And I'd like to discuss a purchase of some ProTran technology ranging right-of-way safety equipment. So the purpose of this procurement is to furnish GCRTA with a new batch of ProTran right-of-way worker protection equipment. This is a secondary protection device used by our right-of-way workers and train operators, in addition to our established right-of-way worker protection plan, rail operations rulebook, safety guidelines. This system kind of supplements that and gives further warning to our work crews and train operators that they're going to encounter each other on the right-of-way. A quick visual example of how the system works. You can see on the top right here, there's a train approaching a work crew, and here there's a clear line of sight in the field. That's not always how it goes. So your flag protection is your primary warning, but this system will allow further warning to that flagger so they can alert their work crew that a train is approaching. Likewise, the vehicle operator knows that they're going to encounter a work crew. So when they encounter each other, this is actually one of the older versions of the system that we have on property. They'll hear a sound like this. It's a little louder typically, but there's no train in the vicinity. That's just a small example. But with the new system, they'll hear that warning. Everyone's going to know that they're bound to approach each other. One new upgrade in this is that the vehicle operator and the work crews will give each other feedback, so one knows that the other acknowledged the other. So it's just a safer setup overall. The operational importance of this equipment currently is used daily by power and way personnel, facilities maintenance, engineering department and their contractors. This supports further situational awareness while working on the right-of-way, performing your primary function. This really is a big help to aid the safety protocols that we already have in place. And again, this is part of our existing policy, so purchasing this equipment and keeping this in circulation is going to just further aid and reinforce what we have established already. And this system is a proprietary early warning system. ProTran equipment's already incorporated onto the Siemens LRVs that we were just discussing. And this equipment that we have on property now will not be compatible with the new generation. ProTran calls it their ranging technology, just because it's a little bit more intelligent in how it alerts. So what's being purchased by this procurement? We're going to get 165 of these personal alert devices. That's what our right-of-way workers use when they're in the field. We'll also have 20 high-rail vehicle units that will allow the high-rail vehicles and work equipment that we have to function similar to the LRVs. We'll also get a handful of functional testers and charging units that are necessary to operate the system. Glenville?
Good morning, Chair Pachetti, committee members, and members of the board. My name is Glenville Manning, Contract Administrator and Procurement Department, and I'll be presenting the presentation overview for this project. Revised Code 306.43H2 and H3 incorporate that this procurement is possible because the purchase consists of goods or services or any combination thereof, and after reasonable inquiry, the board or any officer or employee of the board designates finds that only one source or supply is reasonably available, and also the expenditure is for a renewal or renegotiation of a lease or license for telecommunications or electronic data processing equipment, services or systems, or for the upgrade of such equipment, services, or systems, or for the maintenance thereof of a supplied by the original source or its successor or assigns. So Harsco Rail is the original provider of the technology, and no other firm can provide this equipment. The technology must be compatible with our existing equipment and the equipment being installed on the new rail cars. It's proprietary equipment and technology. Procurement requested a proposal on January 26th of 2026, and a proposal was received on February 2nd of 2026. After negotiations, an updated proposal was received on February 9th of 2026. Proposal was reviewed by representatives from the Power and Way District and Procurement Department. The firm's experience is a global supplier for railway track maintenance and construction products. It provides a broad range of quality equipment, cutting-edge technology, and over 30 years' experience in the transit industry. Current Harsco clients include the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority, Metro Transit in Minneapolis, Minnesota, King County Metro in Seattle, Washington, Metropolitan Transit Authority in New York City, Chicago Transit Authority in Chicago, Metro Transit in St. Louis, the Port Authority of Allegheny County, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, among many others. The staff requests that the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees the award for ProTran technology ranging right-of-way safety equipment to Harsco Rail in a total contract amount not to exceed $516,532.50. This amount is approximately 12% above the independent cost estimates. We'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will just say I personally appreciate the props and the visuals. I think it's really helpful to understand what we're recommending. So, any questions or discussion from the committee members or from the full board? Okay. Do I have a motion to move this to the full board for consideration?
Motion, Gallo.
Second, Sleesman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so we'll move that to the full board. Thank you so much for your time this morning and for your time yesterday explaining the details to me.
You're welcome. No problem.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to a discussion around a contract increase. We have presenters. I'd like to welcome up Tom Allen, Energy Manager, Sean Becker, the Director of Procurement, and Jen Martin, Program Contract Manager for Procurement. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Pachetti, committee members, members of the board. My name is Tom Allen, and I am the Energy Manager. With me today is Program Contract Manager Jen Martin, and we will be presenting the request to increase the not-to-exceed amount for the natural gas supply contract. So the authority utilizes natural gas to fuel our CNG coaches as well as heat our facilities and our water. The current supply contract has 32 accounts, 2 of them being the CNG fueling stations, 5 of them being our larger facilities, which is labeled under the FRTS pool. That stands for Full Requirements Transportation Service, and our 25 other facilities under the ECPS pool, which stands for Energy Choice Pooling Service. These 2 different pools plus the 2 different CNG stations are the 4 different rates we are paying under this contract. The current contract type we have is called NYMEX Plus. What that essentially means is we contract a small portion of our rate, called the basis, at either a discount or a premium against what would be considered the commodity cost or the market rate. And the market that we utilize is the NYMEX market. And by doing so, this is in the in-between between a fixed rate that we're paying monthly versus just taking the standard service offer from the utility, or essentially the market rate. And what this allows is this gives us the ability to lock in future consumption volumes at a fixed rate based on what the future is at that time, even though we are not purchasing the future contracts in the moment, simply utilizing those predictive rates to create budget stability and minimize price variances based on either weather, storage levels, or production levels. So as you can see here, the original estimates, which were compiled back in April of 2021, and to frame that, this contract was effective starting August of 2022. So these estimates for our consumption for the 5-year period was about 2.5 million units of natural gas. However, with 3 years of actual consumption information, plus knowing transitions that have occurred over time, I'm now forecasting about 3.2 million units of consumption, which is about 660,000 more than the original estimate. So there are a few driving forces of this, and the majority of that lives within our CNG space. So one of them would be schedule changes. So when these estimates were originally prepared, the next-gen system redesign was not in place. That, coupled with standard schedule variances over time, for example, looking at the 40-foot weekday service, March of 2021 versus December of 2025, there was about a 13% increase in miles at Hayden and a 15% increase of miles at Triscuit. So variances like that are driving consumption up. Additionally, these estimates were prepared before Triscuit had any CNG coaches in revenue service. So that made it extremely difficult to forecast the transition timeline, when they would start using CNG and how much CNG they would use. So the original cost estimate based on these factors was about $8.6 million. And as such, not to exceed amount was established at $9 million to give some cushion, some extra wiggle room for the unknowns. However, based on the schedule changes, the rollout of CNG coaches at Triscuit, and elevated market rates that have occurred over this time period, the current cost estimate for this contract is now about $11.6 million, which is about 35% higher than that original estimate. Now, it is also worth noting that this is not a request to increase the budget for CNG or natural gas costs in 2026. This is simply a request to increase the contract ceiling to allow us to expense the budget that has already been approved. So one other thing we wanted to note was to talk about how the conversion from diesel coaches to CNG has been impacting cost and cost effectiveness over the recent years. So as you can see here, our diesel consumption has gone down as we've transitioned from diesel coaches to CNG. So looking back to January 2022, we had about a 50-50 split in our CNG coaches versus diesel. And now, as of today, we're at about 83% CNG coaches. And as such, our consumption of CNG has gone up over the years. And so CNG is measured as a diesel gallon equivalent. That is essentially a standard rate to create that apples-to-apples comparison of diesel cost and consumption versus CNG cost and consumption. As you can see here, the cost per gallon of diesel fuel is well above the cost per diesel gallon equivalent of CNG. And in looking at these numbers, it is worth noting that for diesel fuel, these numbers include our fuel hedging program, which has seen gains in 2022, 2023, and 2025, but it does not show the alternative fuel tax credit, which was a 50-cent per gallon equivalent credit for using CNG. It expired at the end of 2024, but it would significantly impact the cost numbers you would see there as a rebate coming back from that tax credit. So one last thing I want to mention is that we are not only asking for a change order to the current contract, but we will be also soliciting for our next 2 supply agreements in 2026. So as of right now, we anticipate coming to the June board for the next natural gas supply agreement, which would be effective August of 2027. And then we anticipate coming to the October board for the next electricity supply agreement to be effective May of 2027. Now at this point, I will hand it over to Jen for the procurement overview.
Good morning. My name is Jen Martin, and I am program contract manager for this procurement. On August 24th of 2021, by Resolution 2021-82, the Board of Trustees authorized Contract 2021-70 with Direct Energy Business Marketing, LLC, to furnish the authority's natural gas to its 32 accounts for a period of 3 years, with 2 one-year options, annual amounts not to exceed $1.8 million per year, totaling $9 million for a 5-year period. This change order has been reviewed and approved by the Change Order Committee. And to give you a little background on the Change Order Committee, it is an internal process that we have in place in the procurement department. For any change order over $50,000 and possible board action, the change order goes to the Change Order Committee, comprising of 5 different departments within RTA. Firstly, we have grants management. Grants management ensures that the proper use of the grant funds are going to be within the grant stipulations when applicable. The legal department also gives their review for applicable regulations that are being followed. The business Office of Business Development monitors the DBE goal that is being met and or exceeded through the change. The Office of Budget Management confirms that there is appropriate funding available to execute the change order. And lastly, to ensure regulatory compliance, the Internal Audit Department verifies that all procurement activities and change order processes aligns with the policies and standards set forth in our procurement manual. Staff requests that the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees approval of an increase to Contract 2021-70 with Direct Energy Business Marketing, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $3 million, resulting in a new contract amount not to exceed $12 million. We will be happy to entertain any questions the board may have.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you have any questions first from the committee members, and then we'll go to the full board? Okay, anyone else?
Tom, did you say that the natural gas you're purchasing is on a fixed rate?
So it's a partially fixed rate.
Okay.
So our current contract, we fix the basis cost, which can be a discount or premium depending on what the market's at. And then the rest is against a market rate. Now, specifically right now, we have locked in our future prices. So I can forecast what we are going to spend based on those rates within the wiggle room of what will consumption be. Now, this contract type, we have the ability to not lock in future rates and simply accept whatever the market flows to or lock in portions. So we have that flexibility when we enter this type of contract.
So long term, did you say you did lock in some of the rates?
Yes, so the rates for the remainder of this contract have been locked in, and they were locked in back prior to my predecessor retiring. So at the tail end of 2023, they were locked in through July of 27 to ensure that we had that budget stability. So we understood what our future costs were likely to be, plus or minus what the consumption variances are.
Okay, and I like your slide with the diesel equivalents. It was a nice comparison. That was very helpful. Do they give that to you, the rate that you're locking into, before you do that calculation into a rate per CCF?
So the diesel gallon equivalent calculation, that comes from the contract we have with our operations and maintenance vendor. So their payment is based off of the diesel gallon equivalent consumption. So we work with them, and it is also an industry standard rate to come up with what is that number going to be. And since it is an industry standard calculation, I'm able to kind of verify their numbers versus our numbers.
Okay, so you use that. That's the terminology you bid on and lock in on, rather than a CCF, which would be more of a residential natural gas rate.
So the terminology for the natural gas supply contract, the utility is MCF. is what we were paying off of. The natural gas supply contract is MMBTU, which is roughly about 10% higher, is how we're paying the natural gas supplier.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
One question, or maybe two, and I want to just make sure, and you may have said this and I just missed it. The locking in of the rates, is that embedded in our contract, or is there a separate hedging agreement that we use for that?
So it is part of the contract, but it functions similar to hedging in the sense of we can monitor the futures, we can monitor how the market's fluctuating, and pick a point where we feel the future cost for the next year, 2 years, whatever duration at whatever value is favorable. And it gives us a sense of that budget stability while also allowing us to, if we want, the market's heading down, we can trend with the market on our costs and try to take advantage of both, positive market fluctuations as well as understanding we know what we're going to pay and we're okay paying it.
And there's a cost, I assume, to lower that or hedge during the contract, or no?
I'm not quite sure. I believe it's all built into the contract.
Mayor Weiss, Committee Chair Pachetti, members of the board. And the contract works where you can choose to, in this particular contract, you can choose to lock in an amount of natural gas in a future month, but it's a part of the contract. So I think maybe to answer the question, it isn't like we're hedging an instrument that is not the actual commodity outside of the contract. This is happening within the contract, not where we would have a diesel price where we're purchasing diesel, but the instrument for traditional hedging is outside of the contract. So this one is within the natural gas supplier, and they're allowing us to purchase the fuel, purchase a portion of a month's consumption at a certain rate in the future.
Okay, thank you.
But we're not using like a derivative that's matching the commodity.
Right.
I guess for me, and maybe I'm just trying to figure out how much of this contract is fixed and how much of it is variable. We both are aggregators for cities. And bid our own electricity, natural gas for residents. And so I've seen wild swings in the short term, let's say just for natural gas. The rate, if you just go to a consumer choice for like Columbia Gas, dropped like 40% on Monday from what it was January through March. So that's why I was trying to just understand the components of this contract of how much variability there might be in it.
Yes. So as you mentioned, the basis price. So we will pay the NYMEX price. The fixed portion that we know of is going to be the basis price. So you pay NYMEX, let's just say plus a dime. We'll just add that as an example. But when we start the contract, there has been no actual natural gas commodity purchased. So we don't have a price. We have to either accept the monthly flow of the average NYMEX price for that month or choose to lock in a certain rate. But just if you start at the zero, when we start on day one, you don't have a price until we either take the market if we're in the month or choose to purchase at a price that the future said it was going to sell for in a future month. And so it's not like we have, I don't know the cost anymore, but let's just say, what are it for? How much does it cost an MCF now? About $4. Okay, I thought so. All right, so let's say it's $4 an MCF in the market. The market may be within this month going from $4 to $5, and it's fluctuating daily. We could either ride that and pay a price at the end of the month, which was a cost of the average of that. But in 2 months, the future price, let's use an example. I think the future price has stayed, they didn't go out very far with the war, but let's say in the future months, it's showing at $3. We could choose 3 months from now to purchase the future price for that commodity at $3. for that month, and we would build up to the amount of the consumption that we expect to have in that month.
Okay. Just before we adjourn, I did want to, or before we make a motion on this and then adjourn, I did want to ask if you could clarify what the upcoming related procurement opportunities are this year that I know. Could you just, I don't know if you mentioned it before, but could you repeat that? Thank you. So these are going to be the upcoming contracts where we are looking more at the future than we are looking at the current past.
That you need both the electricity and the natural gas in order to create the CNG.
Thank you.
Yes, certainly. So as you have with your home, when you get a utility bill, you could have, a supplier on it for both natural gas and electricity. So as an agency, we have chosen to contract with suppliers with the hope of paying a lower cost than what the market would bear. So both of those contracts, due to the past RFPs, past procurements, both expire in 2027. And in working with our energy consultant, the advice is you want to get out to the market for natural gas more than a year in advance of when you expect to utilize the contract. So because of that, we're targeting the June board to have the next natural gas supply contract starting in 2027 for whatever period of time we end up contracting. Whereas electricity, the advice we have is we can have a shorter time frame between securing a new contract and the effective date. So that's why we're targeting the October board. And it is important to know that for CNG, that isn't just natural gas. It's the utility cost natural gas, it's the supplier cost, but it is also our operations and maintenance cost with our operation maintenance vendor, as well as the electricity cost for the compressors. So both of these procurements will play into our CNG costs moving forward.
Thank you. I just want to be sure we're aware of what's coming up. Okay, with that, I'll ask for a motion to move this to the full board.
So moved, Sleesman.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you so much for your time. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Sleesman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.
I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee meeting at 10:30 a.m. Brent, could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Sleesman?
Here.
Ms. Pacchetti?
Here.
Mayor Gallo?
Here.
Mr. Love? We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have a few items today. First is approval of minutes. We have minutes both from January 6, 2026, and the normal meeting of this committee, and then a discussion meeting that Mayor Kumar and I were the only ones present for it on December 18th, 2025. Those meetings are in front of you. Do I have any discussion or revisions from the committee? Seeing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Gallo.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Those minutes stand approved. We have two presentations today. The first is an IFB procurement, a presentation of a competitive procurement to replace 4 obsolete scissor lifts with 4 new lifts. Presenters are Norbert Reynolds and Lou Catalucci. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Chair Pacchetti, other members of the board, good morning. My name is Norbert Reynolds, and I'm a resident engineer. I'm here today to present to you the replacement of the Hayden Garage heavy-duty bus lifts, phase 2. I will start out by describing the scope of work. The scope includes removal and disposal of the 4 existing in-ground lifts. It also includes modifying the existing pits in which those lifts sit to receive the new lifts. It includes installation of floor drains in each pit. Then we'll provide and install 4 new in-ground scissor-style lifts. Also, the provision of 480-volt 3-phase electrical power to power each lift. Also, to provide hydraulic hoses and air lines for each lift, and also to apply a surface coating on the floor. So, because Hayden depends heavily on these lifts, in fact, all lifts are being used continuously. So as to minimize disruption of their operation, the project is going to require that no more than 2 lifts are replaced at a time. Okay? Once the lifts are installed, they'll be fully tested and certified before they are placed into service. The contractor is also required to provide training on the operation and the maintenance of these new systems. And during this work, the contractor must coordinate closely with the facility manager and engineering. So on the screen, you're seeing 2 pictures. On the left is an existing lift that is currently out of service. Now, these lifts were installed 15 years ago, and the manufacturer for these lifts no longer manufactures these particular style lift. And therefore, whenever there's a breakdown, depending on the nature of the breakdown, sometimes it can take a reasonable long time to get the spare parts. So this lift has been sitting here for a few weeks now, still waiting for spare parts. And these lifts were made by the company called Rotary, which I said is no longer making this particular style lift. On the right, in picture B, is a lift that is functional. You can see a worker, a mechanic doing their servicing of the bus there. Okay, this slide's picture C shows what the new style lift is going to be. Now, these lifts are manufactured by a company called Sterling, and you can see the worker is able to have free access. See, in a garage like ours, there are different types of lifts that we have in service. And these particular 4 lifts are really the workhorse of the garage at Hayden. With this style lift, the mechanics are able to do all type of works, including work on the wheel. You can see the wheels are accessible. They can do brake works. They can do, engine works, etc. So, on picture D to the right, it shows a cross-section of the lift. And you can see in this style lift, the rear post is fixed. However, the front post is able to translate according to the wheelbase, which is the distance between the rear and the front wheel, to match that particular wheelbase so that it can lift the vehicle effectively. So the new style lift, the Eco 60 lift, 60 because it's able to combine both posts 60 tons. This is a fully relocatable design, which means that as opposed to the traditional in-ground lift, which sometimes go down 8 to 9 feet in the floor, these lift has a shallow pit. And with that said, you can easily access the lift for more easier maintenance. The mechanics often complain that it's so time-consuming and difficult, and sometimes not safe to repair lifts that are sunk 8 feet in the ground. So with this 34-inch deep
pit, it gives you that flexibility for maintenance. It also, like I said earlier, has a continuous recess movable post mechanism, which is the front post. With this lift, there is no embedment in the concrete of the components. And that way, we can also easily take a post out. If there is a significant problem that needs to be repaired, it can be taken out and replaced easily. And like I said earlier, the wheel is free, that you can do brake works, wheel works. The operator, the mechanics has unobstructed access to the vehicle. Another benefit is that it uses a low volume of hydraulic fluid, requiring about 3.5 gallons per scissors, compared to the traditional lift, which can use up to 20 or 55 gallons. So that's good for the environment. With this new lift, it integrates new technology. It has what it calls an eBrite technology. It's an intuitive interface, and a mechanic can actually operate the screens with a glove, which is very convenient. It also, you can have access on board for operational maintenance. If there's a problem, they do not have to go search in the drawers for manuals. You can actually access this on the machine, on the equipment. And a feature of this lift is safety features. It has a high safety standard. It has a high loading capacity. And like I said, each post is capable of carrying up to 30,000 pounds, which is combined 60 tons per two-post lift. It requires the operator to have an ID key. It has an overload protection. It has robust mechanical locking system. It does lift in synchrony, so that no one post is going higher faster than the other, so that the bus is kept safe while it's been lifted or lowered. It has a flush mount pit cover, which reduces trip hazard for those mechanics who are traversing that area while they're working on it. And it also has an inclinometer for safe and precise motion control. And over to Lou.
Good morning. My name is Lou Catalucci. I am the contract administrator for this project. I'm going to present the procurement overview. This invitation for bid was issued January 11th, 2026. It is accessed on the GCRTA website by 17 interested parties. That includes general and subcontractors, as well as others, and one firm submitted a bid. The lowest responsive and responsible bidder is SLE Technologies, Inc. of Maxwell, Indiana. SLE Technologies, Inc. is a factory authorized installer for the proposed lifts, and they are also the distributor in this region for this lift. Their experience, SLE Technologies, Inc. has successfully completed projects for the Greater Peoria Mass Transit, Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit, Madison Metro Transit, among others. SLE Technologies, Inc. has current projects with Akron Metro RTA, River Valley RTA, Central Ohio Transit Authority, and the City of Ellisville, Illinois, among others. Staff requests that the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee recommend award to SLE Technologies, Inc. for the Hayden Garage Lift Replacement Phase 2 project. The contract is an amount not to exceed $1,470,630.83. Thank you. We would be happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you for the presentation, gentlemen. I will ask a quick question, as I tend to do where there's only one bidder. Do you have any insight as to why there was only one bid?
Excuse me. Thank you for your question, Chair Sleesman. As I said, SLE Technologies is basically the captive company of the distributor for this region. I did have conversations a pre-bid meeting for another project, lift project, with some of our potential bidders. And due to the fact that SLE is self-performing all this work, they felt that they could not compete price-wise because of the pricing advantages SLE would have being the distributor of the lift.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else on the committee or the broader board have any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to move this to the full board?
Motion Gallo.
Do I have a second?
Second, Pichetti.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? This passes and will move to the full board for approval. Next up, we have the presentation of a Broadway transit-oriented development study. We'll hear from Maribeth Feek and Mandy Metcalf from planning, and from Krista Pisarczyk and Michelle Bandy-Zadaloris from city architecture. Apologies if I got any of those names wrong.
You did
Floor
well,
is
thank
yours.
you. Good morning. I'm Maribeth Feek. As mentioned, I'm Director of Planning, and I just want to set the context for the study. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce the RTA staff, Mandy Metcalf, our senior planner, who is a project manager, and our consultant team, where we're going to give to you a project we've been working very closely with Slavic Village, our partner, City of Cleveland, and a consultant team in developing a TOD BRT plan for Broadway. You have seen this again. This is our priority core network. It is the backbone, as we talked about on Friday, of RTA's actions and our strategic plan. It represents all of the corridors throughout our system that have the highest propensity for development, where an BRT or a transit improvement could leverage economic development and additional development along those corridors. Corridors serve all 59 communities within our area. And what we've seen is the past, we have done Clifton, we have done Healthline, we are in the process of designing and engineering the Metro Healthline. All of those have incorporated $9.5 billion on the Healthline of development. We anticipate $1 billion along the 25th Street Pearl Corridor in development. So this has the potential to do that. We are working on them individually. Euclid was done, Clifton was done, Metro Healthline on 25th Street is underway. Each one of those studies started, each one of those plans and projects started with a study. And this study on Broadway is the next step, the next corridor. You'll see later this year, Lorraine Road will also go under this type of study. So we have completed it. We spent a long time, over a year, looking at the analysis. We did get a competitive FTA TOD grant for this one, and also Lorraine. And I don't want to take any more time, we will not need any action. This is a planning study, so we can take a deep breath. And you can see on what I didn't talk about is TOD and BRT are linked. I told you about the development of transit and how that leverages development of the community, and also magnifies on the corridor. So while a corridor may just be a few blocks or a few miles in the city, the benefits that go on on Broadway to Warrensville Heights, to Garfield Heights, to Bedford, Maple Heights, are magnified throughout the line. So with that, I will turn it over to Mandy Metcalf and our partners.
Thanks, Mary Beth. And good morning, Chair Sleesman, members of the board. My name is Mandy Metcalf. I'm a senior planner of programming and planning, and I'm thrilled to share our plan today with you. It's bringing together bus rapid transit and transit-oriented development, and could really be transformational for not only ridership along the corridor, but also for placemaking in the Broadway Slavic Village neighborhood, and as well as Mary Beth mentioned, providing benefits for the adjacent communities for their transit riders riding through the corridor. I would like to acknowledge that Shauna Sanders is here with Slavic Village Development, and we really appreciate you being here, and it's been a pleasure collaborating with you and Crystal Sierra and your whole team at Slavic Village Development. And I also want to acknowledge Nick Miller and Muriel Bowen, who are RTA staff that have also been a part of this project team. And now I will turn it over to our consultant and have them introduce themselves. So, Michelle.
Thank you, Mandy. Good morning. Good morning, board. Good morning, Chair Sleesman. On behalf of our team, we would like to thank you all for the opportunity to present an overview of the Broadway TOD plan. To conduct this plan, we assembled a balanced team to look at the project holistically. And we're joined also today, I'd like to just acknowledge team members from Manick and Smith Group and WSP. So just a brief reminder of what transit-oriented development is. It is important in connecting people and place. It locates homes, destinations, and developments within a convenient and comfortable walk to a transit stop. This supports a dense mix of uses with less parking and places a focus on pedestrian and bicycle connections. It has many benefits, including a reduction in crashes and improved safety, increased accessibility and efficiency, and supports economic development within our neighborhoods. Well, this was a TOD study. We looked at the road through a BRT lens, bus rapid transit lens. Broadway is well connected from a transit standpoint with 0 or 1 transfers. Riders can access 11 GCRTA routes from the Broadway corridor. Due to vacant and underutilized land assets along the corridor, we saw this as an opportunity for development. It supports a sustainable approach to growth for the neighborhood. I'm going to pass off to Krista Pisarczyk from my office to discuss engagement, the transportation planning, and market analysis.
Thank you, Michelle. I am Krista Pisarczyk. I am Senior City Planner with City Architecture. So we connected with the community in several layers to build this vision for the corridor. We developed a broad engagement strategy with our steering committee, came up with this layered approach of engaging with the community, the steering, the focus groups, including residents, community organizations, youth groups, local business owners, faith-based organizations, the development community, experts on land use and policy, and of course, our infrastructure partners. We made sure to incorporate many voices into the conversation, and as you can see, this was a very intensive outreach. We had almost 20 core project team meetings, 4 very large-scale public events, 5 steering committee meetings, and almost another 20 focus group conversations. And what we did, as Mary Beth mentioned, we worked with Slavic Village City Planning and ensured alignment across multiple concurrent planning efforts. At these engagement events, the type was widely varied. We heard there was an emphasis on strengths of Broadway's diversity, historic aspects, green spaces, and there's a deep community pride within the neighborhood. We heard a lot of concerns about unsafe crossings, speeding from vehicles, poor lighting, potholes in the roadway, and deteriorating sidewalks. Because of these conditions, access of and getting to the bus stops is challenging, and there is a need for more supportive infrastructure and amenities for the public and ridership. Along the lines of these conversations, we also heard about housing stability and that reinvestment is a priority. Residents expressed the need for affordable housing, foreclosure prevention, home repair resources, and incentives for preserving and rehabilitating the existing housing stock. There was also a desire for more neighborhood gathering spaces, including like cafes, dry bars, playgrounds, and other shared public spaces. Moving on to the transportation plan. We did a deep dive analysis on some of the roadway conditions, and we uncovered that there have been 540 crashes along Broadway between the years 2021 and 2024. 40% of these crashes resulted in injury, and it was noted that Cleveland's Vision Zero study shows that average speeds along the corridor exceed the posted speed limits, which is what is a direct correlation to these crashes. Understanding this data was critical to helping us determine where to focus improvements along the corridor. We analyzed the corridor from Finn to Miles Avenue from a transportation perspective and in the view of the surrounding land uses. That's where that TOD and BRT overlapping kind of come to play. The northern section of the corridor, highlighted in purple here, is characterized by highways, industrial use, and is planned to host the Slavic Village Connector Metro Parks Race Trail. That is an off-road multi-purpose path. The blue section highlighted here, immediately to the south of that, has the historic urban form with the buildings kind of closer to the roadway. There are some high vacancy rates, and there are also narrow sidewalks in this section. The purple section, the road narrows here. That is the portion near Fleet Avenue. And we recognize that 2 bus lanes, dedicated lanes in this section, given the existing right-of-way widths and cartway, are not feasible. The yellow section is at the south, is a much more auto-oriented portion of the corridor in terms of land use and roadway width. And what we determined through our analysis is that the northern portions of the corridor do not carry that much traffic. Current bus stops are located very close together. The traffic volume analysis indicated that the roadway capacity to support the additional bus lanes through those blue and yellow portions shown here, and the corridor traffic does not include significant directional peaks, so that determining like peak directional bus lanes or anything of that was not an ideal solution for this case. We presented several different roadway features to the public throughout the course of our engagement. Some of those included dedicated bus lanes, sidewalk bump outs to allow more room for shelters in locations where the existing sidewalk is narrower. And this also helps to keep the buses in the travel lane, so there's less weaving in and out. And also looking at sidewalk widening to improve the pedestrian access. All of these kind of features layer together to enhance the streetscape, increase safety, improve accessibility, and the pedestrian experience, and ultimately the transit reliability on the corridor. So here you can see the preferred alternative. It's a little small. The report that can be provided has the corridor configuration in more detail. But when we were developing this alternative, we refined the corridor to exclude the northernmost portion that we talked about on the last slide for 2 reasons. One, there's not a lot of opportunity for transit-oriented development from a land use standpoint, and also that Race Trail project has already been engineered for the improvements to that roadway with collaboration with RTA. So the yellow circles on this map indicate development nodes, which we will go into in a minute. And the configuration here ultimately proposes dedicated bus lanes for more than 50% of the corridor. And across the length of it, there are strategic bump outs to allow space for shelters where the sidewalks are narrow, to create space for on-street parking where there is little to no opportunity for that behind the existing buildings, and to allow space in key areas for raised platforms to help speed up boarding. The map highlighted here shows the location of the proposed station locations. These are station pairs. The existing condition with the corridor is that there are 25 existing stop pairs with an average distance around 700 feet between the stops. Our proposed configuration for the BRT is 17 stations with an average of about 1,200 feet between each stop. The result here is approximately 30% fewer stops and 1.8 times the distance between the stops. And this will help to improve efficiency and reliability from an operational standpoint, and also improves the experience for the users, the riders, to have that predictability in arrival times. And you'll note that there are 5 different colored dots on this map. Those indicate station types. We looked at a family of station types based on the existing conditions of the right-of-way and what is available to allow from a depth standpoint. And we developed a family of station types based on these conditions. These station types were developed based on feedback from the community. That is how we arrived at the components and the amenities shown. And we also followed GCRTA standards when it comes to the layouts and clearances that are required for each amenity. Ultimately, we compiled here a summary of the improvements that are part of this initiative, just to put them all in one place for you. Some of the improvements include dedicated curbside bus lanes for more than half the alignment, transit signal priority, reduced number of bus stops, far side bus stops, raised boarding at approximately 50% of the proposed stations, and the new stations would support rider safety and comfort. Transit benefits include increased efficiency and reliability, improved safety, increase in ridership, and improved perceptions of public transportation through the new transit waiting environments and the support for multimodal transportation. Briefly, I'm going to highlight some key aspects of our market analysis. Here you can see on the screen the census tracts that were used as the basis for our data points. Ultimately, the industry sectors, per some 2022 data, out of the 11,706 jobs in the study area, the top sectors were manufacturing and healthcare social assistance. Those ones make up approximately half of all of the jobs in the area. It was interesting to note when we looked at where the residents of this area work, only 4% of them, or approximately 383 jobs, work within this area. The rest of them are traveling either to the balance of Cleveland, which is about 30%, or to other locations in the region, but outside of the Broadway neighborhood. The retail market impressions, the opportunities that we determined based on the market study for retail growth include dining, clothing and apparel, miscellaneous retail, such as sporting goods, pet supplies, hobby stores, and home improvements and furnishings. These are categories that are lacking in the neighborhood, but could be supported based on the market study along Broadway and in the greater Slavic Village neighborhood. The idea is to target existing vacant commercial spaces along the corridor to house a significant portion of new retail opportunities, as well as undeveloped sites where new infill development can be built. Quick slide here on the housing market. The median sales price is very low at $75,000. Both of the other figures there on the left, the 2/3 of sales are to investors, and 46% of those investors are from outside of Ohio. Both of those figures are high, higher than we would like to see. But unfortunately, that follows a trend across the greater Cleveland area. So it's not uncharacteristic for this neighborhood based on the rest of Cleveland. Some other statistics there on the slide about median sales prices and rents. I do want to note that we would recommend supporting homeownership programs for local buyers to attract them to Slavic Village, and recommend marketing the area as a place where people can affordably put down roots and build equity. The reality of the market here is that, as I stated, the home values are low and they are actually below replacement cost. There is investor-dominated ownership and no true market for market rate units at this time. We recommend a comprehensive phase strategy to increase and stabilize housing in the neighborhood. There are some emerging projects underway now, but because of the market conditions, we need to build stability in layers and decrease the dependence on subsidy. Subsidy is the only way many of these projects are getting done currently based on the market. The first step here would be to reinvest in the existing buildings, commercial buildings, housing stock, through renovation programs and adaptive reuse. And here I'm going to turn it back to Michelle to go through some of the development plan recommendations.
Thank you, Krista. And I will move quickly, recognizing the time. We'd just like to provide a brief overview of the land use and development plan that supports the transportation plan. And as mentioned previously, we looked at this in a series of nodes centered on the station locations to focus investment, recognizing the investment climate that was identified as part of the market analysis. And understanding that housing investment is probably our best bet for a first step in starting to change the dynamics within the neighborhood and along the corridor. And this is where TOD is critical, and that ability to build in density. We developed a series of housing typologies in concert with the Slavic Village Master Plan, and recognized that paired with infrastructure investment, again, this is a critical first step to support other markets along the corridor within the neighborhood. I'll go through these quickly, but as a part of this, we looked at, within each of these nodes, the opportunity sites that exist in terms of vacant land assets. We looked at ownership. We looked at multimodal connections within each of these areas, the pedestrian experience and conditions of that experience, so that could inform in infrastructure improvements and the greater recommendations for development. And we conducted this for each of the nodes that you'll see on the slides. This was the northernmost node at Pershing Avenue. We recognize that East 55th Street and Broadway, that intersection is really the neighborhood's downtown, and it's an important place from a standpoint of historic assets within the neighborhood and opportunities for the adaptive reuse that Krista mentioned, as well as opportunities for infill housing to support stabilization of this area. From the standpoint of not spreading the peanut butter too thin, there is a recommendation that we focus investment and actions one node at a time to start to build from a single area. And this, in conversations with the community and conversations with the neighborhood, the East 55th Street development node was seen as that important first place of investment. The Union Etna node brings multimodal access right to the Broadway corridor, as bike routes pass across the corridor in this area and provides an opportunity to really highlight a multimodal approach. The fleet development node builds off the existing asset of the Stella Walsh Recreation Center and the unique opportunity that we have at this time with the City of Cleveland looking at the Stella Walsh Rec Center as an early spot for some reinvestment as part of their recreation plan. It also aligns large-scale development opportunities that are adjacent to the neighborhood. We have really large amounts of vacant land in this area that can support transformational reinvestment and transformational reinvestment by multiple groups in alignment. Finally, moving south, the Harvard Development Node is an important gateway and a spot that connects businesses, industry, and the remaining neighborhood assets. And so a quick summary of recommendations and next steps. Continued coordination for the alignment of multiple initiatives that are currently underway is critical. Addressing safety improvements early with quick, small-scale initiatives is an important way to address community, stated community needs and priorities, and then strengthening existing neighborhood corridor through that renovation and adaptive reuse approach. Our next steps will include presentations to the City Planning Commission and Landmarks Commission, as well as the Local Design Review Board. We will start opportunities to proceed with exploring the next steps of a transportation plan, as well as development opportunities working with the City of Cleveland, recognizing those other initiatives that are underway and aligning the TOD, BRT, and development opportunities that exist here. And again, just reiterating that the bus rapid transit opportunity along the Broadway corridor can be a catalyst for the focused growth that we have identified through this study. And we think that we've got a unique opportunity at this time. So thank you very much. Certainly happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for the presentation. Before we get to questions, I just want to commend whoever designed the meeting slide as a transit map. That was a nice detail. Do you have any questions from the committee or the board?
Could you go back maybe to one of the beginning slides or explain where does this route begin and end again? Is this all on Broadway?
This is all on Broadway.
Okay.
The study area, the full study area, sorry. Do you want it, maybe? Yep.
So it starts in the north. We initially looked at from East 34th Street down to the Turney Exchange. That's where you see on the left side of your screen here. Ultimately, based on that, the Ray's East Side configuration, we brought the starting point of our corridor recommendations down to the Flynn Avenue intersection, which is right at the start, Finn, which is right at the start of the first yellow oval, and then it goes down to Miles Avenue, the Turney Exchange.
And if you go back one, you can see the whole. If you go back.
The Miles.
And I think the question too is about the Route 19 and where that goes, so we can go back.
And you got a follow-up question as well?
This one. So, yeah, so the route itself extends from downtown into Garfield. It splits at the Turney Warner Loop and extends into Garfield Heights and Maple Heights.
So East 55th and Broadway up.
Yeah.
Down.
Pardon me?
East 55th and Broadway is, and then up and down Broadway.
2 miles. What I heard.
It's small.
So I think there were two questions. One is, what are the limits of the corridor that we studied? And the second one is, where does the route go? Is that correct?
Yeah, and that's fine. It's probably enough. The question I have is, given where the county may have resources, outpatient and other supporting services with their jail. How does this tie into that? And was there consideration given of that connectivity, knowing that there may be increased ridership and this line potentially could support that downtown? So I was trying to understand not only the TOD component, but how it might fit into changes, regional changes for the jail.
Right. Like it definitely will increase the capacity of our transit system by improving the reliability along the corridor. And we'll also, I should also note that Garfield Heights has done its own TOD study along the route and is really interested in moving forward with development changes there as well.
I guess, Mary Beth, relative to connecting to the Granger Road area, does it all fit together?
The routes do go that way. I mean, the routes all split, but the common route is this corridor. So yes, it will help that route. Additionally, I didn't talk about the major players that are within Slavic Village, which are, of course, the hospital, Metro Health is there, and then the Third Federal Savings and Loan has a huge complex there, as well as the Boys and Girls Club. So there's a lot of players along that. And at the ends, there's again the jail that we've been working very closely with. I know Joel has on serving that system and that new community center.
Just a quick question. Would it be possible to generate a slide that shows that and maybe do it graphically where you have the map of the BRT proposed and then have those kind of pins dropped as to those locations and what the expected increase in ridership may be? Or at least their population would be helpful. Thanks.
No problem.
Yeah, I know we're short on time, so I just, no need to respond, but I guess for a future discussion or a response, I'm really interested in the extent to which we're also working with county planning and also other partners generally when we talk about the city, their Sites Fund initiative, and just like different players who also are looking to bring jobs along transit-served corridors. I think it's a broader discussion. We didn't get a chance to get into that today, but I think it's extraordinarily important. And when I saw the job slide, it was mostly focused on local services and retail, and so that's what prompted the question. But I do think it's important to understand the broader context, long-term planning and development opportunities that are in areas like this. I would love to engage in that discussion, but probably not for today. Thank you.
Well, just to let you know, as part of our strategic plan, the TOD section, financing is part of that, what we could potentially in the partners. And we have also, with Chief Officer Birdsong and others, we've met with the Cleveland Foundation, we've met with the County Land Bank, and we're always, I think we have monthly meetings with Cuyahoga Planning Commission on their TOD initiative, as well as the port. So we're looking at how we can fund TOD type projects.
If I might, I thought I saw just a project cost number of, did I say 39 million? And I was just curious, in broad strokes, what does that cover? Is that all just infrastructure? What?
Yeah, I think it's 36.9 million, and that's a construction cost, very general estimate. So we expect all of the project costs to come in just under 50 million. And that's today's dollars.
And that's infrastructure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
That's what we do, infrastructure, shelters, construction of whatever we're constructing. And that's the 36. The 50 would be any engineering fees that we need and those types of activities that are associated with developing the project.
Thank you. A lot of work. Great job putting this together.
Yeah, your graphics are amazing.
Are there any other questions from the committee of the board? I had, one, I appreciate the consolidation of stops and having it to be an average of every quarter mile. That will be helpful. And then one quick question. There were a couple, including the 55th intersection, there were a couple of nodes there where we were too narrow for dedicated bus lanes. And I know we have we were looking at signal priority throughout the corridor, but is there any, to compensate for not being able to get bus lanes in a couple of those tight spots, are there any other measures or are we making sure that transit signal priority is monitored there and installed and really works well?
Yes, we do have transit signal priority in the plan for the whole corridor.
Great.
Far side stops also help. The potential for the raised platform where we have some additional space also helps because that helps speed boarding and alighting.
Thanks. Anything else? If not, we have no action, so I thank you for the presentation and the time.
Just a quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
On that point about the correlation between raised platforms and boarding, can you explain that?
Yeah, so like currently buses will have to like kneel the bus and try to get people to board easier. So the idea of a raised platform, it's not, we're not talking about the kind of level boarding platform that you see on the Health Line, but it's just enough to make that transition a little easier so that we don't have to wait as long for the bus to kneel and deploy the ramp.
Got it. So not as many mechanics involved in the
Right.
onboarding process. Okay, thank you.
What question?
The question is, have you considered the residents and the visitors or even the workforce due to the aging factors in our region to make the bus station or the stops longer? Would that really be beneficial?
Since there was no mic, I'll just repeat
Okay, go ahead.
the question about residence workers. It's well, just about the stops being able to be longer.
So I think you're talking about stop spacing. Yeah, so it's really gonna.
If we want to encourage the safety of pedestrians, there are lots of churches in that area as well. So we cannot expect all the elderly people or people with disability to drive themselves. That's why we need a paratransit service and our public transit service for them. So if you separate all these stops too far away, would that really be beneficial?
The advantage of separating the stops, increasing the stop spacing, is to really increase travel time for everyone on the corridor. We did really, it's a great question, and we really did carefully consider where to locate the stops to maximize that pedestrian accessibility, making sure that they're located at key destinations, and also looking at the walk shed that leads into every stop and making sure that we're not really increasing that distance that people have to walk too much. Because the stops are closely spaced now, moving them a little bit further apart, people who live within a quarter mile of the corridor are not really going to see that much additional walk time, and they are going to see some savings on the travel time. But yes, the pedestrian connections, that access is a really important part of this plan.
And also the snow ice removal, would that be helpful as well? That's the other part.
If I can offer, if I may. So I appreciate the questions, and they mirror some of the notes that I had myself, so I appreciate it, Lou. Let me ask put another request in. No need to respond, but if we could also update that slide. There was one in there that gets to the walking distance between stops, and you have it as far as feet, I think it is, from 700 and something to 1,200. If you could translate that slide and provide a little bit more information about the walking distance, that's a little bit more layman term friendly. So if we are saying, for example, if the guidelines are a quarter of a mile or 2 blocks, that kind of thing, to be able to translate it into the average and then have the pros and cons of what the difference is in reduction of stops. I think we have like 10 stops reduction from what we were. That would be helpful, providing that as well as the other slide to be able to talk about the businesses. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks. If there are no other questions, we don't have to take any action. So again, thanks for your time. And I will move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second, Gallo.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. This meeting stands adjourned at 11:22.
Know we're getting a little late on time this morning, so we do have some technical things we need to take care of. So I'd like to call to order the Compensation Committee. This morning's March 3rd, 2026 at 11:22. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Weiss.
Present.
Ms. Pacetti.
Here.
Ms. Elder.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. First item is approval of the minutes from the February 3rd, 2026 meeting. You have a draft in your materials. Any corrections or changes? If not, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Pichetti.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Before we do have an item to go into executive session, but before we did that, I did want to note for the board that Mr. Garofoli circulated a reminder for the fraud risk assessment questionnaire that they need for purposes of completing the annual report. So I think he circulated that to board members. So if you could take a look and get that turned in as quickly as can, that would be great. With that, I'll make a motion to go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second, Pichetti.
Those actually need to call the roll.
Mayor Weiss.
Yes.
Ms. Pacetti.
Yes.
Ms. Elder.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. I'll note for those maybe listening in this morning that we will not be taking any action after the executive session this morning. With that, I think we're scheduled to go to the executive conference room.
I believe, George, if you could confirm, I believe we're here in the caucus room, if that's accurate. Right. Okay, and if right here for ease of time.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then if I could make sure we retain George Fields, Tony Garofoli, check in with George for as far as timing, and Raj, stay on standby. And other than that, everyone else can hold on.
Thanks, good job.
No, I'm not sure I did.
Ladies, thank you.
Do you want me
Appreciate
to-
it.
The purpose of the executive session is to consider the employment, evaluation, and compensation of a public employee or official. I failed to indicate prior to this the topic. Thank you. Brent, could you call the roll? Yes?
Yes.
And I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, meeting stands adjourned.
Whatever goes on the record, it still passed throughout the meeting.